Hey everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron, and today we're gonna get back on this 1987 Chevrolet K5, known as Marlboro Man. Last video on this, you saw we set the motor and transmission in, got the transmission cross member put together and installed, and the motor and trans is all mounted, but we still got a long way to go. Got a transfer case sitting over here on the floor that needs to go in. I've got, that's all, most of that's extra parts. I've got radiators that need to go in. I've got accessory brackets with power steering pumps and alternators that need to go on. We got high mount ACs from Dirty Dingo that need to go on. And I have a crap load of parts inside here that still need to be put on and installed. And we're just gonna get started today and see how far we can go. So first thing I wanna do is start getting stuff underneath done. I need to get that transfer case put in so we can check the drive shafts and see how close they are in length with the new engine and transmission setup. And if they're not right, then we're going to have to send them off, or we can do it ourselves, depends what the owner wants to do, but have to get those fixed if I can't make them work. And then once we get the transfer case and drive shafts figured out, then we need to rebuild the exhaust because we have a different motor with different headers than what was in here when the exhaust was made, and it has glass packs on it, and he brought me Flowmasters and some pipe because he wants to switch the glass packs over to Flowmasters. But I can't run the exhaust until I have everything else in place, so we know where everything's gonna sit and mesh and everything like that. And then once I get everything underneath done, we'll move into the engine compartment, start doing wiring harness on the motor, mounting the computer, radiator, accessory brackets, yada yada, hoses, belts, so on and so forth. Like I said, we're just gonna get to it, see how far we can go. I can't do a whole lot of filming underneath, but I can get some work done and show you the progress that I made. So I'm gonna put the transfer case up on the tranny jack here. I have the bolts that hold said transfer case to the transmission. Now, on this transfer case, right here, where it mates to the transmission, there's a gasket, or what's left of a gasket. So there's supposed to be a gasket in there because there is a slight chance that fluid can get in there. And the main thing is we want to keep dirt out. I do not have that gasket. I'm not gonna go get that gasket. I'm gonna clean it up really good, and we're gonna go over and get some of our gray RTV, put it on there. We'll put the transmission in and bolt it up. Now, here's the deal. I haven't done any research, and I do not know if this is gonna work. The transfer case that's on the floor over there is the stock transfer case out of the K5. My buddy that owns this said that somebody told him that it'll bolt directly up to the 4L60 that we put in here. I'll tell you guys whether or not it works after I get it done. So for right now, we're gonna clean that old gasket off. We're gonna get some silicone. We're gonna make sure the back of the flange off the transmission's clean. We're going to clean it up, silicone it, after we test fit the transfer case and make sure the splines are gonna line up and all that. And then we'll put the transfer case in and I'll update you guys on what's going on. Okay, well, I went a little bit further than I had planned on, but all I did was stuff underneath that I said I was gonna do pretty much. I got the transfer case in. I tried using the transmission jack and couldn't get the angles on it that I needed, so I ended up bench pressing it. But I did find out in P208 transfer case, passenger side drop, the factory transfer case out of this 87 K5 Blazer slid right into the back of the 4L60 from the donor vehicle, and everything bolted right up. It's got the right drop for the drive shaft, everything. I'm gonna take you guys underneath. I got a flashlight because the lighting not that great underneath. So I'm gonna do my best to show you what I can, and hopefully it turns out okay. So there it is. Our transfer case is in, angled down. And while I was under here, if you take the factory, you take the nut off of your shift selector shaft over here and take it off. You can take one of these U connector deals from a turbo 350, turbo 400, 700 R4, whatever, and you can hook up all the factory shift linkages. Factory shift linkage is hooked up. It's in park right now. I ran it through all the gears, and it goes through all the gears just like it should. So shifter hooked up and complete. And then you come over here, and we have our four-wheel drive shift selector, which, because we use the factory transfer case and everything winds up being about the same length, it all just hooked right back up, no issues. We got our factory speedo cable plugged in because it plugs into the transfer case. And then up there on top, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but the wires for the factory gear selector light for the range selector light for the transfer case is all plugged in. So everything transfer case wise is going to work exactly like it did from the factory with all the factory form and function. And once again, I said that we had the right length, and we've got rear drive shaft. I got to get a new U-joint to put down there because there's a cap missing, but it goes in as far as it was in before. Everything goes good. Front one same way, got it mocked up. Needs a new U-joint down there because there's a cap missing, and our drive shafts will be in. So transfer case is in, transmission's completely hooked up, transfer case is completely hooked up. The drive shafts, like I said, I got to put new U-joints in them, but they're going to slide right in and work. So valuable piece of information to have. If you have an MP208 that came off of a 700 R4, it'll go right back onto a 4L60. Everything should be about the same length, and your drive shafts and everything will work. So valuable piece of information to have. If you have a four-wheel drive square body that came with a 700 R4, that's the big thing. You can't go get a MP208 that came off of a 700 R4, put it in a truck that had a turbo 400, and expect all the links and everything to be the same, because they're not going to be. Transmission links are different, drive shaft links are going to be different, so on and so forth. So real quick, why I got your guys' attention and we're going over this. When this Blazer got brought here to be dropped off, my buddy that owns it had a rope tied from frame horn to frame horn, and he had the winch cable hooked onto that rope. And the door's not open right now because it's cold and rainy outside, but we backed the trailer up to the edge of the apron there so we could roll it off onto the apron and push it inside. Got the ramps out, got everything out, went to take the slack out of the winch cable, and that rope snapped, and this thing came off the trailer. Luckily, the shop door was open, came off the trailer, came in the shop. I was at the front of the trailer. I was able to jump on the trailer, run across the trailer, get in here, grab a hold of the door handle here, put the brakes on, before it hit the burnout truck, which this has been a while. It was before we put the motor in the last video, all that stuff. But my buddy that owns the truck told me to go ahead and tell this story just so other people don't do the same thing and have the same problem. But as you can tell, this thing has nice body work, real nice paint job. It's been a project of his for like 14 years, doing all this work and everything. Well, when it came off the trailer, when it snapped the rope, came off that trailer, before I could get to it to stop it, my cherry picker was sitting right here. Well, it came through the door, and the handle on the cherry picker nailed it right there. Busted this tail light out, put a deep scratch right there, and put a deep scratch in a little dent right there. Been working on this for 14 years, spent a lot of money. Body work and paint, and because he put that little nylon rope in there, it wasn't little, I mean it was at least 1/2 inch if not larger diameter nylon rope, but because he put that nylon rope in there, the weight of the vehicle snapped that rope and it just took off. I mean, if I wouldn't have been in the position that I was in and quick enough to come in and stop it, it'd have creamed the burnout truck and who knows what else. We got lucky it didn't hit the door or the door frame of the shop. It came in past that and I was able to get it stopped, and it only hit the cherry picker. I mean, it sucks that it hit the cherry picker. Sucks that it did this damage. Most of it can be fixed by replacing the taillight. But don't ever, if you're using a winch on a vehicle, luckily I have one right here to show you. This is an axle strap. This is meant to wrap around an axle and hook a tie down to hold something to a trailer or to pull something with a winch. This is not gonna just, I mean, as long as this is in good condition, this is not just gonna snap and allow something to haul butt. So make sure you're securing stuff properly if you're loading it. I mean, I've seen it happen before. People are loading stuff onto a trailer with a winch, and the way they got the winch hooked up isn't fully secured, and it lets go, and the vehicle that they're winching onto the trailer starts rolling back off the trailer. Just all kinds of stuff. I mean, I don't think I ever told you guys this story, and I'm not saying anybody else is better than me or worse than me, or I'm better than anybody else. And I don't think I ever told you guys this story, but when groundskeeper came back from the wrap shop, I thought it was in park, and it wasn't. And I free spooled the winch, and my buddy was running the winch. I was trying to get the truck to start, you know, get the winch cable to where it was loose to start moving, and it wasn't in park, and the winch free spooled, and groundskeeper took off down the trailer over at my old shop, and luckily my buddy was able to run down and get it and stop it before it creamed a tree. And that would have been really bad, because I had just got done spending like 1.5 months all day, every day, body working that truck, and then it had gone to the wrap shop and got wrapped. And literally he was bringing it back from the wrap shop so I could finish it. It would have, I mean, it would have destroyed that truck if it hit that tree, and it would have ruined that whole project. So we got lucky there too. But I guess what I'm trying to say is be careful. If somebody would have, my 3-year-old daughter was over here when we unloaded this, and I keep her, she's usually not around when we do stuff, but I keep her right next to me. And luckily she was right next to me when this took off the trailer, because if she'd have just been roaming around and she was back behind the trailer because I wasn't paying attention, that could have been it, and that's not cool at all. So, I mean, it was bad enough that when it did take off, she was standing right next to me. I jumped up and hauled butt to stop this thing and left her standing there, which wasn't necessarily the great parenting thing to do either, but it all turned out okay. So don't have little kids around. Be really careful with what you do. And I'm not gonna rant anymore. You guys all know how to do it. I'm just saying, you know, do what you know how to do and do it right. Don't just take it for granted and hope for the best. So it's cold and rainy today. I haven't got much done. I don't feel very good. I got a splitting headache. I've been trying to push through it. We got some of the stuff underneath done. I'm gonna call it a day. I'll come back first thing in the morning. We'll get on this thing and see what happens. So we'll see you then. All right, it's the next morning. I'm feeling a lot better. I think I just had a lot of like a pressure headache going on yesterday because of the weather, cold and rain and heavy clouds and whatnot. But either way, got past that. Feeling a lot better. Got a little bit of a late start today because I had merch orders that I had to drop off at the post office this morning. So with that being said, thank you very much to everybody that ordered off of the merch site. If you haven't ordered off the merch site or don't know about the merch site and you want to check it out, www.harmongarage.com. Maybe there's something on there you like, maybe there's not. But anyways, we're back on Marlboro Man. I showed you guys yesterday before I went home that I had pretty much everything underneath done. The only thing left that I have to do from underneath is build the exhaust system and hook up the fuel lines. So the guy that owns this already put the proper fuel pump in the tank. It's all hooked up and it's all run up here to where the factory flex lines hooked up to the throttle body originally. So that's not gonna be too bad. But right now, I've already kind of started on building the exhaust, and I'm gonna show you basically up here what we're gonna do, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do it, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done, because there's not enough room for all of us down there. I mean, as much as I want you guys to be down there hanging out with me, there's just not enough room. So what we got here is header collectors with O2 bungs already in them that bolt straight onto the header. The reason there's only one sitting there is because I already bolted the other one on. And then I had my buddy go get me 45s. This end will slide over the collector. We got unions. And then we've got, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say 5-foot stick, maybe 4. 2.5 inch pipe, and then we have some Flowmaster mufflers down here, and this thing already had an exhaust system on it, so it's got the bent up over the axles pipes that we're going to tie back into after we get the mufflers on. But we got to do it one piece at a time, and so that's what we're going to do. Like I said, I already got that collector bolted on. I have my 45 to bring it back straight, already cleaned up so I can tack weld it. I'm going to get everything fitted up in there, tack weld it in place, and then I'll bring the header collector, the 45, the union, and the straight pipe, and the muffler. I'll drop it back out if I can. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to because the way it runs over the top of the cross member. But anyways, I'm gonna get it all tacked, everything tacked up in there the best that I can. Go back and weld everything up the best that I can. Everything will be welded up solid, and we'll get some hangers on it. So I'm gonna see what I can do. I pretty much laid it out to you. I showed you guys what I'm using, how I'm gonna do it. So I'm gonna get it done. I'll show you the finished product. All right, well, I got the passenger side exhaust almost done. It's all welded together. It's up in there. All I have left to do is connect the existing tailpipe to the muffler and ran out of welding gas, and I'm not going to get any today. And I kind of need help with the placement on the hooking up the rest of it, and Pops will be here next week, so I'll wait till he gets back and we'll do that. But there's our muffler. We got our pipe. Got plenty of clearance on everything. All welded up solid. Got our 45. Got our connector to our header. Got our gasket in there. Got the bolts finger tight. I never tighten them up on the headers. I never tighten up the exhaust to the headers until I have everything tied up, and then I do it. So that's probably wrong, and I'm sure somebody will tell me I'm doing it wrong, because that seems to be the new thing now, to comment on videos and tell me what I'm doing wrong. So I don't know what I'd do without it. I'd probably screw everything up. But anyways, out of welding, guys. Can't finish the exhaust right now. Got the one side almost done, so I'm gonna move up here. I went ahead and got the coil pack put on this side. I'm gonna get the other one, put it over here, and then before I do anything else, well, I'm gonna I'll put the accessory bracket back on over here, and before I do anything else, I'm going to get the wiring harness out and run it, so I know that it's where it needs to be, and I can tuck it behind stuff it's supposed to be behind and whatnot. So I'll bring the camera out. I'll show you guys a little bit of what I'm doing. It's basically just bolting stuff on, bolting stuff back on, whatever. So that's what we're doing. Okay, this isn't really anything exciting. Just putting the coil packs back on. Wrong. So we're just throwing these on so we can get the wiring harness going. Alright, coil packs back on. We're going to have to get new spark plug wires, because those aren't going to work with the headers. So I'll have to get a hold of him and get some of those coming. But now we got the coil packs back in, we got the plug-ins and some of the tie downs where the harness runs. So we can go ahead and get the harness out and see how it lays out. Okay, now we're going to get to where we actually install the harness in this thing. Get all the wires run where they're supposed to be, and pretty much try to get everything hooked up. So the harness that he got for this, he already had this. He's collected parts for this for a long time, but the harness that he got for this is from PSI, Performance Systems Integrated, and they aren't sponsoring us. They honestly, before he brought this harness over, I had never even heard of them, but I've looked it over real good, and it's basically a cut down standalone harness, or a cut down factory harness to be standalone. I mean they make it, it's all new, but it's a standalone harness. It's like it's basically like cutting down a factory harness, and comes with instructions, tells you how to do it. Pretty good instructions, and it's actually set up. You got the under dash section, and then the engine, front of engine or engine compartment section. This is the engine compartment section. This is the under dash section, and it actually has a grommet to seal off that hole right there. So it says right in the instructions that this harness is designed to have the computer mounted under dash behind the glove box passenger side, where basically where the original throttle body computer was in this thing. So I went ahead and removed the dash, or the glove box, and I took the factory TBI computer out there, and I have the new LS computer in. It's not mounted. It's loose. It's not loose, it's wedged in there, but it's not mounted. It's just sitting there. The reason I have it just sitting in there and not mounted is because I want to run all the wiring and make sure everything's going to reach. Because if I just go ahead and get the computer mounted in there and then go and run all the wiring out for the harness, and where I put the computer is not a viable place and the wires don't reach the computer, then I have to start that process all over. So I know it makes sense, so that's why I'm doing it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this harness taken out of the bag, I'm going to start feeding it through the hole up in there. I'll probably shine the camera in from under the hood so you guys can see where the harness is out there, because there's no way that my big self and a camera and that harness is getting in that passenger floorboard. So we'll film what we can, but I'll break this harness all down for you as I get a chance. Okay, considering that we're going through a 2-inch hole that's not exactly wide out in the open, I mean, those computer connectors are like that big, they ain't gonna fit through that 2-inch hole with all the wires coming out of the back of them. So I think the easiest way to do this is going to be to feed the wires from the inside out. So you guys watch this hole right here. All the wires for the engine and transmission should be coming out there. I'm probably gonna have to go back and forth, pull some, route some, whatever, but that's what we're doing. Okay, that was so much fun, I can hardly contain myself. Oh man. Okay, so we've got what we need out here now. These here are the original alternator wires. These are the original starter wires. I'm not sure how this harness works, but I'm sure we're going to need them. So we're going to, I'm going to go through the harness, start finding out where stuff plugs in. Obviously I know this is a transmission connector. This is a transmission connector. So these go back that way, and let me start looking at the instructions a little bit, find out where stuff plugs in, and we'll go over it. All right, so you guys saw me feeding the harness through the firewall, and let me tell you what, this thing is beautiful. Like I said before, I've never used this PSI harness before. I didn't order it. My buddy that owns the truck ordered it. I'd never heard of it. He dropped it off with the truck. We figured it out. And honestly, if you don't mind going with a stock PCM, this thing's pretty cool. I mean, it's basically the same thing as cutting down a factory harness, but it's laid out really nice and somebody else has already done it for you. So you can see where it comes through the firewall there. Has a grommet that fit right in the hole that was already there. I got wires running down to the starter. I got wires running down to the transmission. Everything here for the injectors fit into the factory clips, which I forgot to clip this one. This wire here that's not hooked up to anything yet goes to the map sensor. I don't have a map sensor in here yet, so we'll stick that in there. And but all the injectors are plugged in. The rest of the harness comes back around the other side, comes up here. I went ahead and put our power steering and alternator accessories in so I could plug our alternator in. I got our coolant temps plugged in. But once again, all the way right down the valve cover in our factory locations, all the injectors are plugged in, alternators plugged in, throttle position sensors plugged in, IAC's plugged in, mass airflow sensors plugged in, and like I said, all we really got left is a map sensor. We got our cam sensor on the back of the motor, our crank sensor down behind the starter. Everything's there, everything plugged in, really nice. I'm super happy with it. It's a really clean harness. It's laid out very nicely. It looks really clean. And then you come in here and We don't have very good light in here, but we got our two plug-ins that plug into our PCM. They've got their own little fuse box with relays. And then there's these wires, which are, some of them are mandatory, some of them are optional. And then we got this, I think this is an accessory ignition wire to turn everything on. But it comes with really good instructions here that breaks down what everything is for, and everything is good and all that stuff. So we're good with that. And now all I gotta do is just mount this computer up there in the corner, figure out what we're doing here, plug this in, and our harness will be installed. So I got the one side of the harness done. The other side of the harness isn't that far off, but it's wiring on the inside of the truck. And there's a lot more wiring that needs to be done on the inside of the truck. So I will make a whole separate video of wiring the inside of the truck and probably hooking up fuel lines, tranny cooler lines, stuff like that. So I mentioned to you guys earlier in the video that when this thing got dropped off, we had a little accident and it busted out this tail light. Well, my buddy that owns the truck bought new taillights. And so we'll get them out of the box eventually. There's boxes in boxes in boxes. So we got flasher for LEDs, so these must be LED lights. Wow, check out that fancy. All LEDs with boards. Plug them in and they're ready to go. So, alrighty, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna call it quits with that harness for right now. Oops, sorry, not even pointed at me. We're gonna call it quits for the harness right now because we're gonna do another video and do the whole inside of it. I'm gonna set up and we're gonna change out these taillights real quick. And we'll see if there's some other trouble we can get into. Okay. Obviously, to take the old lights off, we need a Torx and not Phillips. These new LED lights look like they kind of have an interesting method of plugging in. So we'll see how that goes when we get to that point. But for right now, we're just going to get these off. And these lights are a little bit of everything. They're not just a lens or a simple replacement. They're the whole kit and caboodle here. Alright. So, now I guess I gotta figure out how all this goes, because I don't know. Okay, so here's the right side light housing, which I'm not even sure if we need, but I'm going to have it open and ready just in case we do. Alright, so we got that. So there's that. That's just the factory replacement base housing, whatever you want to call it. This is going to be our right hand light, and from the looks of it, we're not going to need these because these have their own base, screws on there, and then our fittings are going to go through and everything's going to plug in, and I'm going to have to read the instructions to find out what we got to wire in for here, because there's nothing there to wire into that, but we'll figure it out. So we'll grab our screwdriver, take our lens off of this. You guys see what I'm doing? Yeah, you can see what I'm doing. So these lights, I'll give you guys the part number here in a minute, but judging by the box, I can tell they're from USA 1 Industries, and they're all LED. And I don't have any power hooked up to this thing, so we're not going to test them out today. But if you're interested in what they do and what they look like, that'd be a really good reason to subscribe to the channel, because here real soon we'll have another video on this thing when it does have power and everything's working, and I'll be showing you guys what it does. So keep that in mind. Alright. It looks like there's dimmer switches in here, little dimmer switches, just those there you can move, that probably make the lights do different stuff. I'll look up and see what that is, but for right now we're just going to hook it up, and yeah. I gotta take this bulb out, and this goes in its place, like so. This goes in there. That goes in there. And now we've got to find instructions. Apparently this is what plugs into that. And it goes. Apparently it just ties the two lights together. Okay. I'll do that. I know I said we were going to read the instructions, but this is just kind of common sense here. We'll plug that in like so. And I'm assuming maybe the instructions are in here. No. Maybe. Oh, here we go. Look at that. Instructions with pictures. You do not want the rapid fire brake light turned. Okay, so you can, it'll do like a dancing brake, or it'll just be on. Cover the side marker bulb socket with tape. This will not be used. That's what I needed to know. So we no longer have a side marker. So we'll take the bulb out of that. Stuff it back in the hole. This is going to go just like that. I think these work. Alright, then we'll put our lens on, and once we get everything lit up and working, we'll decide what we want to do as far as how the tail light dances or whatever. And, just a little tip for you guys, not just on these aftermarket lights like this. Anytime I'm doing any of these lights, I never tighten all the screws down until after I've gotten all the screws started. Because sometimes they can be a little bit of a pain in the rear end to get them lined up. So, I always just start them by hand, maybe screw them in just a little bit, and then let them just do their thing. And then once I get all four started, then I go ahead and tighten them down. That looks way better than those other lights in my opinion. Don't know how cool the LEDs are going to be once we get it fired up, but yeah. Looking good. I'm going to go ahead and slap the other side on, and then we'll take a look at it with both of them changed. Okay, got the other tail light put on, and I tell you what, I changed the whole look of this K5. I wasn't a fan of the Euro tail lights. I don't know if that's what they call them nowadays, but you know, 20 years ago when they came out, that's what they were called, Euro tail lights, and not a very big fan of them. But anyways, these look stock. They have the LEDs in them and whatnot, but they look stock. which is more my flavor. I'm a stock kind of person. So there they are, and they look really good. And this thing's really going together. I know I didn't really have a purpose for this video, and I know I didn't really show you a lot of what I was doing. It was more, hey, I'm gonna do this. Ooh, look, it's done. And that's just kind of where I was at. I needed to get some work done on this thing to move forward and get my mind back in it. And I wanted to give you guys an update of what was going on with it, because there was quite a bit of interest in it when I made the first video, and I haven't said anything or done anything to it since. I had a couple days, I wanted to make a short video, and I wanted to get some work done. So we got about half the exhaust done. We're waiting on some U-joints to put the drive shafts in permanently. I need to wire the harness inside and mount the computer, heater core, hoses, radiator hoses, fan shroud, just little stuff. And this thing will be about ready to go back home where it belongs. Throttle cable, yeah. So couple more things. I will make at least probably just one more video on this as I finish everything up. We'll finish the exhaust and everything else that I just mentioned. I'm trying to stop repeating myself like I do in these videos all the time. So everything I mentioned, I'll make a video on finishing that up. We'll get it all cleaned up. We'll get it to where it's ready to go, and I'll make a video on that. But anyways, if you guys haven't checked out the merch site yet, www.harmongarage.net. I got it all spelled out for you right here. Go check it out. There's a link in the description. That'll take you straight there too. If you don't mind, go check it out. Even if you don't want to buy anything, just go look and see what I got, because you might find something you want, or something that you need to buy for somebody else for Christmas, or whatever the case may be. Another little plug, Squarebody Nation has fender covers. Did you know that? I didn't, but they let me get one to use and asked me to let you guys know about them. So if you think that's pretty neat, here, I'm gonna show you, because it's not like a typical fender cover. There's my little list of stuff that I needed to do and still need to do some of. But anyways, it's not like a normal fender cover that just like hangs over the fender and sits. This has magnets in here, so you just, I mean, you can put it out there. You don't have to put it on the inside. I just did to cover the edge, but it's got magnets in the top. Put it on there, hook it. Your fender cover's there where you need it to be. It's pretty strong. It's really soft on the backside, not gonna scratch nothing. It's strong. I'm pulling on it, it ain't going nowhere. It'll stay on there. So I don't use fender covers a whole lot. I probably should more often, because I always wear a belt and you never think about your belt buckle when you're scratching a fender. But if you're looking for one and you want a cool one that works really good, squarebodynation.com. That ain't a sponsored ad at all. Mike is a friend of mine. He asked me, he gave me one, asked me to tell you guys about them. So there's that. But check out squarebodynation.com. A lot of cool stuff on there too. And that's gonna wrap this one up. It's about that time. So thank you guys so much for watching. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.